So the start of the race and no big moves initially in the top three. George Russell's about to lose out from fourth position. But look at the intent from Max Verstappen to come across to the inside to just make sure he holds the track position he's earned through qualifying. Russell drops back. Norris now is not able to do anything about Max. In truth, would he have fired a lunge halfway down the inside? Absolutely not on Verstappen at this stage. Fernando Alonso gets a really good start as well in the Aston Martin and gets ahead of George Russell. So Russell, the big loser in that initial getaway. And for Red Bull and Verstappen, they needed George to be on fire on Sunday, and he just wasn't throughout. And that was the first bit that went away from him. Interestingly, if you jump on board with Lando, we could see the pressure of a title challenger with everything in his hands on the final day. Just needs to be in the top three, start second, should be okay. But these pre-start revs are really tricky. You've got to be bang on to get a good launch. If you just spike up a little bit too much or drop down a little bit too low, you can have a big wheel spin, a big bog down, potentially an anti-stall we've seen as well this year. And when you're sitting there on the front row and you have the championship at your fingertips, it's so easy to make a mistake. Now, if we just look at that, which is Lando perfectly on his pre-start revs with the 5 red LEDs up in the middle. But as we're going, just momentarily, he's put down the throttle a little bit too much. Then he's trying to get it right, and he takes it off, and you can just see it's flirting with being too low on the pre-start revs. All the time the lights are coming on. So this is now 3 red lights, 4 red lights, and he manages to sort it out and be nailed on by the time he then drops the clutch, the revs drop, and off he goes. But it shows that small things could have made a big difference to Lando's race, and he did really well to combat this. He's trying to just make sure that obviously the start is nailed on, but you've got to be so steady with the throttle. Make sure your clutch drop is good. Remember Oscar jumping the start in Baku and then having an absolute nightmare there, cost him critical points. And this is the sort of thing title pressures can do. So listen to this. Momentarily high on revs, momentarily low, gets it sorted in a split second, and off he goes into second place. Could have been quite different for Lando, but dealt in the end with it very, very well. Title pressure, number 1, ticked off in qualifying, ticked off in the race start, and now we'll see if anything's going to happen throughout the 58-lap race. For George Russell, it is the nightmare start that Norris wanted to avoid. He is bang on his pre-start revs, but what he's going to do is drop the clutch, I think, too far, and the revs are going to completely drop off, and he's going to lose a bit of a throttle map plateau where you can then feed in the power again. So as he drops down, the revs die, and now you're in first gear trying to apply 1,000 horsepower. So if you're not in the right rev range, basically, as you step away, it's so difficult to feed that throttle back in. So once again, if you listen to this, George dropping down, and then the throttle pedal at this point feels so spiky to try and find that rev range and smoothly apply it again. So that is Leclerc through, it's Alonso through, and now Russell is going to have to give his tyres a bit of a harder time, clearing Fernando and getting back to Charles, and he will be the first man to make a pit stop of the major players at the front of the race, and really set himself up for a disappointing finale. Let's fast forward it to halfway around the first lap then, because this was a beautiful move. Oscar Piastri on Lando Norris. So in towards turn 6, Lando covers the middle of the road. It's well defended. Behind, you've got the Ferrari and the Aston Martin doing battle as well, very close through turn 7. But Lando doesn't want to give up this position. I've seen a few people saying it was a tactic by McLaren to allow Oscar through. It wasn't the end of the world, and in fact, it played out quite well for McLaren having Oscar go through. But if Lando was going to wave him through, he would have done it way more comfortably than this. So he's defended turn 6. He covers the inside line in towards turn 9 here. And he starts just clipping a little bit earlier than Oscar here. So he's used up more energy coming down towards turn 6. And you can see the rear light here means he's now harvesting energy down towards turn 9. There's a lot of straight line sections. You've got into 5, you've got into 6, and now you've got into 9. And with no DRS here, Oscar now gets a good run coming around the outside. He's clipping a lot later into this corner. He's had a slipstream down both of the main straights where Lando's been a little bit adrift of Max. So he's got himself completely alongside without the help of DRS, slipstream, and better energy management here. But it still needs a lot of work. Remember, he's on a hard tyre. Lando's on a medium. He is defending it, but he's not defending it as if his life depends on it, because it literally doesn't at this stage. The championship can still be won with Piastri going around the outside. So Oscar commits to a big, brave move. I love the intent from Oscar. I think it was a really nice move. The speed that you carry into this corner, especially lap 1, full tank of fuel, this angle gives it a much better view. committing there, braking 50 metres, turning it in, attacking with loads of speed, off the line a little bit as well around the outside. It's tremendous stuff. On board, we can see that play out again. Once again, Lando defending the inside, maybe slightly unnecessarily, but making sure that he kept track position at that point, leaves him vulnerable down towards turn 9. Oscar tucks in, and we're going to see that move play out. There's the blinking light now. Lando's struggling to accelerate towards the end of the straight, and Oscar just commits to the outside. And he knows as well that Lando has to be cautious from the inside line. So it's a position where he can really attack, throw caution to the wind, and take the place. But you can see, on the other hand, from Lando's point of view here, coming into the corner, Oscar right alongside, with basically more to gain from making the move than Lando has to lose by missing out here. So he turns it in. Any lock-up here, it's going to be chaos. So turns it in, and Lando's under control, giving Oscar a bit of space. And a great move from Oscar sets him up for a potential chance at being champion as well, because he has to win the race pretty much, and then hope for luck to fall his way with something happening to Lando. It didn't happen, of course, but a move that Oscar needed to make to bring his race to life. And he did. And it also made Max's life probably a little bit harder as well.
Can he go the long way round? This would be audacious! That is absolutely unbelievable! Still fighting for this title! Oscar Piastri up to second! Wow!
So I mentioned the early pitting of George Russell off his medium tyres, struggling a little bit, trying to force the issue with an undercut, got very close to Charles Leclerc, and Lando Norris had to cover him off. So McLaren on the medium tyres cover off the Mercedes and the Ferrari. It drops them into traffic. Now, Norris was very clinical through a lot of the cars, made some fast overtakes without losing much time, and that was another key to his race, not getting stuck in traffic, not inviting pressure from Leclerc or from Russell, who were busy fighting each other as well, which worked out quite handily. The big one was with Yuki Tsunoda, so Max Verstappen's teammate. We know the damage that Checo did in 2021, Sergio Perez holding back Lewis Hamilton. This time, there was a moment, and we had loads of questions coming in along the lines of, why did Norris not get a penalty for overtaking off track? Other questions, why did Tsunoda get a penalty for his part in the incident? So Yuki has Lando behind. He's on strict instructions, make this difficult. Understandably, Red Bull playing the team game, using their second driver when they can here. So really, you're allowed to make one move in defense, and you're not allowed to make reactionary late moves. But we do see it from time to time. And personally, I think Yuki's penalty here is pretty harsh. So he does move. 1, 2, he is moving and weaving. And it's that second one there, this late one, that I think gets him into a little bit more trouble. So he's weaving to break the toe initially. Now he's setting himself up for a defensive move. You can see now Lando goes for it. And now Yuki starts coming across. And in the end, it's quite tight between the two. There is still space for Lando to keep it on the track. He's on there now and is still drifting over to just by a small amount go over track limits. But the stewards deemed that was too much for Tsunoda, and that is why effectively Norris didn't get a penalty and Tsunoda did, because they deemed that this was too many moves from Yuki. Now personally, I actually disagree with this. I think Yuki's breaking the toe up ahead. These aren't defensive moves initially. This is just trying to break the toe from Norris and force him to go with. So at this point, really, there's absolutely no harm done by Tsunoda. Now he's picking his line, and this is where it gets a little bit harder, because he's picking his line. Lando goes for the inside, and then from the other shot, you can see it more clearly where Yuki reacts a little bit. You've still got Lando now trying to plunge into a gap that's closing on the inside. It's pretty tight. It's very marginal. It's just off the road. It is very, very close to being on the track limits as well. You've got Yuki making it very difficult with the initial weaves and then the late move. So Lando makes the pass, technically off the road. But as I've said, the stewards deciding that Yuki basically breaking the rules to put him there and not only weaving, but also forcing him off the road as well. Personally, for me, it's a harsh penalty on Tsunoda. It's not necessarily saying it should be a penalty for Norris. Maybe it's a little bit of both. And logic would say, yes, Yuki was maybe coming across. Lando was trying to avoid the incident by going off. He still made the move. He still got the pass done. So for me, penalising Tsunoda is a little bit over the top here when Lando's through. Maybe getting away with it very slightly, but you can see the logic for why the stewards thought Yuki being a bit aggressive coming across, forcing him off the road. Overall, no harm done, apart from a penalty for Tsunoda. Pretty harsh.
I wanted to at least score points, but I don't know, some strange penalty. Once again, yeah. I guess as usual for them, to be honest. But anyway, I give it all.
And I also think the stewards started making a bit of a rod for their own back here by giving Tsunoda a penalty that was harsh. There are actually harsher penalties to come later on in the race. Some good drives further back as well, which we didn't see much of on Sunday. But Lance Stroll had a great race. There was good drives for Fernando Alonso, for Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg charging through on a two-stop as well. But the issue here was similar thing, moving late to defend and weaving on the straight as well. So you've got Carlos Sainz here now, has Lance Stroll on much better tyres, out dragging him and getting ahead. This is towards the end of the race. Now Lance gets ahead, covers the inside line to make sure that that Carlos can't come back. Now you can see that he's just moving and hovering around just in front of Sainz. Technically, it's not great racing here from Stroll. We wind it back. He's on the inside. He's now trying to cover back towards the outside line because mainly he's trying to get the slipstream as well from this car ahead. So he's not wanting Sainz to just pick up the toe and try and attack him back. So he's just moving to try and get the slipstream. Carlos is coming back towards him and he makes a little bit of a late move here to try and cover him off. It's a bit late. It's a bit tight. But for me, it's a pretty harsh penalty, this one, for Lance Stroll. And we do see this sort of racing quite often. So I think that the stewards, by penalising Tsunoda, felt that they had to then go pretty harsh on the rest of the field. The most harsh and one of the most extraordinary penalties I've seen in recent times was on Ollie Behrman, right at the end of the race as well. We go on board with Lance Stroll for what is going to be a stupendous move, but Ollie Behrman gets a penalty for this one. So if you thought Tsunoda's was harsh, Stroll's was harsh, Behrman goes to the outside line, covers the inside. Once again, we're nowhere near with Stroll, so we're just in breaking toe territory. Ollie goes middle, then he goes a bit inside, and he's there towards the inside line. Lance now picks his line to the outside, is able to keep full throttle, and makes this delicious move around the outside, picking fifth gear, accelerating through, given the space. And that's a 5-second penalty for Ollie Behrman, even though Stroll made the move, and Behrman really didn't do a lot wrong. So I think the stewards gave a really harsh penalty to Tsunoda, and then felt they had to back it up with a penalty for Stroll, a penalty for Behrman. And we never see penalties for these sort of things anyway. It's been a long time since someone got a weaving penalty or a forcing the driver off the road when that driver ended up benefiting anyway. Norris made the move and Stroll made the move at the end. So harsh one. In the end, it doesn't matter. Lando Norris made the pass and I think that's fair enough.
The driver 15th in the World Championship standings, Yuki Tsunoda, 33 points to his name. Lando Norris, 408. Can Norris use the slipstream and get ahead? Tsunoda, nearly off the road there. Lando Norris, decisive move to the inside. Tsunoda thinks about the lunge, but there's nothing he can do.
We see this stuff from time to time in the past. We see it pretty often, actually. A couple of memorable moments have been Max Verstappen passing Lewis Hamilton out of turn 5 in 2021. The big pass for Max's first title. But we also then saw him do a load of weaving on the back straight as well, trying to break the slipstream, which is not necessarily against the rules because he's just trying to break the toe and Lewis isn't close enough. But once again, now he picks his line and Lewis goes for the outside, and that's a move that's not going to come off in the end for Hamilton. But we do see the weaving to break the toe fairly often. Another one here is the same year, 2021. Another famous example, race-winning move for Hamilton. But you can see Max weaving right, left. He's going to go right again. Lewis is catching. We'll get a couple of hovers in the middle. Then he'll pick the inside line, and Lewis makes the pass. Now, there's no part of me that thinks Max should be penalised for these two incidents, but it does just show that it does happen from time to time. Drivers breaking the toe when so much depends on it. It's those late moves where you have to back off the throttle that are a little bit more risky, a little bit more dangerous. Maybe Sainz had that more with Lance Stroll. But overall, personally, my opinion is that Tsunoda's penalty was harsh, and the stewards, because they gave Tsunoda the penalty, had to start dishing them out to Stroll, and even more egregiously to Ollie Behrman, who really didn't do much wrong at all. And in these instances, you've got Norris making the pass, you've got Stroll making the pass as well. So I'm amazed that they got penalties. But hey-ho, didn't change the world for Lando Norris, who went slightly over the line, but I've explained the reasons for that.
I was surprisingly calm. I've actually enjoyed how calm I've been over the last 2 days. I was a little bit nervous into qualifying yesterday and a little bit nervous into the race today, but I don't know if I was a lot more nervous than normal. It's just a little bit more on your mind, a little bit more like, what happens if this happens? what happens if something happens on the car? Just a few more. Your mind's just whirling a bit more. But no, I achieved my little dream from many years ago.